Welcome to the 40th Texas Bluebonnet Award Luncheon Program. I am Melanie Scales, the 2019-2020 Chair of the Children's Roundtable of the Texas Library Association. Thank you for joining me today to celebrate the rich tradition of the Texas Bluebonnet Award. We are grateful for the opportunity to celebrate the Bluebonnet Award with you in this virtual format. The Texas Bluebonnet Award is a joint venture of the Texas Association of School Librarians, the Children's Roundtable, and the Texas Bluebonnet Award Committees. Thank you to the librarians in each of these organizations who have worked behind the scenes to make this year a success. The Texas Bluebonnet Award program would not be possible without our incredible sponsors. Thanks to Bound to Stay Bound Books for their long-standing tradition of being the exclusive sponsor of the Bluebonnet Luncheon. Thanks to Mackin for generously sponsoring the travel stipends for our student representatives and their families from across the state, which eliminates financial barriers and allows all students and families to attend the luncheon. Tabletop donors for this year include Follett, Baker & Taylor, the Humanitas Prize, Simon & Schuster Children's Publishing, Scholastic Book Fairs, and School Life. This year marks a milestone for the Texas Bluebonnet Award and for our sole sponsor, Bound to Stay Bound Books. As I mentioned before, this is the 40th anniversary of the Bluebonnet Award, and this year is also Bound to Stay Bound's 100th anniversary. Congratulations all around. At this time, I'd like to introduce TLA 2020 President Cecilia Barham for a special announcement. Cecilia.
Thank you so much, Melanie. It's my honor to be able to read the resolution honoring the Texas Bluebonnet Award on its 40th anniversary. Whereas in 1979, the Texas Bluebonnet Award was established thanks in large part to the efforts of Dr. Janelle Paris, Professor of Children's Literature at Sam Houston State University, and members of the Texas Library Association's Texas Association of School Librarians Division and the Children's Roundtable. Whereas there was an overwhelming positive support from librarians and teachers across the state of Texas for establishing a state award recognizing children in grades 3 through 6 preferences in literature. Whereas TLA members serving on the TBA selection committee choose 20 outstanding books, 5 titles for each grade level and for the annual master list. Whereas TLA members serving on the program committee assemble and create resources such as book trailers, readers' theater, author interviews, activities, and discussion questions related to each title on the list in which participating librarians and teachers rely on. Whereas the first award was presented in the spring of 1981, with 661 schools participating in the program and 28,742 students cast votes for their favorite book. In 2020, 103,967 students from 1,115 participating schools and public libraries cast their votes. Whereas the winning author receives the award from students at a special event at TLA annual conference, which regularly attracts more than 1,000 attendees. Whereas over the last 4 decades, TBA has become an intrinsic part of the reading lives of elementary school children throughout Texas, helping them to discover the joys of reading. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Texas Library Association congratulates the Texas Bluebonnet Award on its 40th anniversary and expresses our appreciation to the volunteers whose passion, dedication, and enthusiasm have made a tremendous positive difference in the lives of hundreds of thousands of Texas school children. I'm now delighted to introduce TLA Executive Director Shirley Robinson.
Thank you, Cecilia. And I'm honored to share the resolution honoring Bound to Stay Bound on its 100th anniversary. Whereas Bound to Stay Bound, a third-generation family-owned business founded in 1920 in Jacksonville, Illinois, is an asset and a force for improvement in their community and our industry. Whereas Bound to Stay Bound strives to provide the best juvenile books, media products, and related services to the libraries of North America and to meet libraries' needs as economically as possible. Whereas Bound to Stay Bound has been a strong and valued supporter of the Texas Library Association for more than 7 decades, exhibiting at the TLA annual conference for 73 years, sponsoring the organization and our events for 23 years, and supporting the Texas Bluebonnet Award reading program and author session for 15 years. Whereas Milton Van Dusen, longtime manager of Bound to Stay Bound's South Texas division, has been particularly active in TLA, providing the lovely baskets used to decorate the tables at the Texas Bluebonnet Award luncheon for many years. And whereas Van Dusen, together with his Texas Bound to Stay Bound colleagues, offered the Van Dusen Kaiser Haley Scholarship to a Texas resident pursuing graduate studies leading to a career as an elementary school or children's librarian. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Texas Library Association, on behalf of its 6,000 members, congratulates Bound to Stay Bound on its 100th anniversary and thanks the company and its dedicated employees for their contributions to and support of TLA and the entire library profession. Congratulations. And now, I'm pleased to introduce TBA Coordinator Jackie Bridges Shepard.
Thank you, Shirley. We are now going to honor the winner of the 40th Texas Bluebonnet Award. But first, I would like to thank Randall and Kitty Heiss of Mackin Educational Resources for sponsoring the travel needs of our students for the 12th year. Every year, one student from each of the 10 TLA districts is selected to present the award to the winning book and its author and/or illustrator. At this time, I would like to introduce these students to you. Representing District 1 is third grader Sophia C. from Ortiz Elementary in Abilene ISD. Representing District 2 is Cayman V. from Williams Intermediate School in Perryton ISD. From Coppers Cove ISD at District 3 is Ari J. from Lee Junior High. From Hallettsville ISD and District 4 is Kennedy A. from Hallettsville Junior High. Representing District 5 is Grayson K. from DeGolyer Elementary in Dallas ISD. Representing District 6 is Kaylee H. from Horizon Heights Elementary in Socorro ISD. From District 7 is Daisy P. from Jennings Elementary in Denton ISD. District 8 is Ashby S. from Campbell Creek Elementary in Clear Creek ISD. Representing District 9 and Friendship ISD is Brooklyn R. from Willow Bend Elementary. Representing District 10 and Medina Valley ISD is Reagan K. from Loma Alta Middle School. Selected by the students of Texas, El Chupacabra by author Adam Rubin and illustrator Mark Crash Mccreary represents a folktale that can be enjoyed by readers of all ages. The publisher's website summarizes it best. A long time ago, a girl named Carla lived on a goat farm with her father, Hector. One night, a goat disappeared from the farm and turned up flat as a pancake. Only one creature could do that, El Chupacabra, the goat sucker. Legend has it that El Chupacabra is a fearsome, but you can't believe everything you hear. And sometimes the truth is even more interesting. Told in equal parts English and Spanish by best-selling author Adam Rubin and cinematically illustrated by acclaimed Hollywood creature creator Crash Mccreary, this lighthearted take on a modern legend is not told in the traditional bilingual style. Each sentence is half Spanish, half English, followed by a repetition of the same line translated the other way around. This mirroring technique allows the language to intermingle equally. Here to introduce our guest speakers are Reagan Kay, introducing our author, and introducing our illustrator is Brooklyn R. Ladies.
I'm Reagan Crone from Loma Alta Middle School in Medina Valley ISD. I am here to introduce an awesome person. This author loves fried chicken and his favorite color is blue, which doesn't seem like a coincidence since he won the Bluebonnet Award. As someone that likes to always have multiple projects going on at once, he also loves creating brain teasers and puzzles. I actually happen to have a brain teaser. I wonder if you could figure it out. What's at the center of gravity, and you could find it in Venus, but not Mars? Any guesses? It's the letter V. Some other facts I learned as I was researching him is that he lives in Barcelona, Spain, which is incredible. In case I wasn't excited enough to meet him, the man loves otters. I love otters, especially ones holding their babies. He spent 10 years in advertising, but now I am so happy to say he has found his calling as an author of 10 picture books, one of which was the winner of Texas Bluebonnet Award, and all the proceeds of this award-winning book are going towards the Hispanic Federation. Everyone, it is my pleasure to introduce the wonderful author of El Chupacabra, Adam Rubin.
How's it going, everybody? Adam Rubin here, author of El Chupacabra. And I'm here in my apartment, clearly not with all of you celebrating in Texas, which is a super bummer, I have to say, because it was extremely, extremely exciting to win the Bluebonnet Award, one of the great honors of my life, and I would like nothing more than to be in a in a banquet room with all of you celebrating over lunch at a hotel somewhere in Texas. I really, really would, but the times are strange, and we will adapt. And so here we are in my little apartment and missing the library, wishing I could go to the library and get some books that I could touch and smell, and I'm sure you feel the same way, and I'm sure your students are feeling the same way too. The library is a very special place full of kinesthetic experiences and intellectual wonders. What a magic laboratory you all get to inhabit every day. Well, not currently, but I'm sure that you're enjoying some time at home. As long as you like your families, that's a nice plus. If you enjoy the company of your loved ones, that's nice. And maybe you even have a backyard out there in Texas. I have a 3x3 square of fire escape that I can climb out the window and get some sunshine on. Here in New York City, we consider that a ranch. So it's a plus. So it's not all bad. And besides just saying thank you for the award, I want to say thank you so much for saving this book from obscurity, because this book did not come out to much fanfare, and there were people on one side saying, hey, I don't want any Spanish in my book, speak American. And then there were people on the other side who were saying, who are you to write a book in Spanish? What gives you the right? So there we were, caught in the middle with this book. But your students, your librarians, your Bluebonnet committee recognize that in this book is something for everyone, I hope. That if you don't know any English, you can learn a little bit of English from this book. And if you don't know Spanish, you can learn a little bit of Spanish from this book as well. And the story of the book, beyond the fact that it's written in both Spanish and English, is about a monster that's misunderstood, about something that people don't know too much about, and so they assume that it's scary. And that sort of idea can be pervasive, especially nowadays where the other is vilified and considered something dangerous. And that's not a way, that's not a society that I'd like to see. And so if I can teach that lesson of understanding and compassion to some kids through a silly story with some goat farts, that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And it was a real privilege for me to get to go down to Texas and visit with some of your schools and some of your students and see their eyes just light up when they saw me hablando en español, porque cuando los estudiantes oyen un escritor hablando en español en su idioma, es raro, creo. It's not something they see every day, and so that was really special for me to be a part of, to see that recognition on the face of some of those students, and also just to laugh with a room full of 400 people is a real privilege and an honor. And it is a silly book. I will say it is a silly book. There are tortitas de cabritas. There's the aforementioned goat farts. It's a silly book. And why do silly books have value? Well, I think that kids are inherently silly, and that silliness is a form of fearlessness. That to be silly and to be confident enough to do something weird or strange or bizarre, it means that we are fighting against fear. Because it's really hard to be silly when you're afraid. And especially in times like these, I think silliness brings us together. Laughter brings us together. I like to think of the monkeys in the jungle. This is before human beings had come around. And the monkeys are going around through the jungle, and there's something that sounds like a jaguar, and all the monkeys are afraid. And then they realize that it's not a jaguar, it's just one of the monkeys groaned or had a burp or something, and they were mistaken. And instead of being afraid, they release that tension with laughter, and they laugh, and they share this moment of release. That laughter means that we are not afraid. It is so hard to laugh when you're afraid. I guess there's that nervous laughter, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real belly laughs, where everybody in the room, no matter where they're from or what language they speak, they come together through this strange sound that bursts out of our faces sometimes when we're feeling good. Weird. It's weird right now out there, inside, mostly inside, and it's an opportunity too, because you get to take the knowledge you have and shoot it through the internet directly into the brains of your students, and that is such a needed essential service. And I hope that this experience for the country will reprioritize for some people the idea of the value of teachers and how incredibly important educators are, and how they should be compensated and cared for appropriately. So I hope that is one silver lining that comes out of this whole thing. I do want to thank Crash Mccreary also for making these beautiful illustrations. I'm sure he had a much more professional and perhaps robust thank you speech. He's got visual aids though, so he does have an advantage in that. I'm gonna maybe I'll make a little cut here so that it doesn't seem like I'm just rambling. Ah yes, why write a book? Why write a bilingual book? ¿Por qué? Porque escribí un libro bilingüe. Nobody was asking for it. Nobody really seemed to want it when it first came out, but to me it's so valuable. You know, my grandmother was a simultaneous translator in the court system for 40 years. Ella era cubana, and she would think in both Spanish and English at the same time, and they were sort of like, she couldn't even tell the difference between the two. But for me, I didn't learn Spanish until I was an adult, and it was a struggle. It really took a lot of effort, it took a lot of energy, it took a lot of time, and if I had learned as a kid, it would have been so much easier. And I wish that I had learned as a kid. I wish that I had been put in that situation or inspired to really work at it, rather than just kind of learn the vocabulary and do the homework. And I wasn't really paying attention. I didn't really believe I could learn this second language, because sometimes in America we act like learning a second language is the equivalent of doing a standing backflip. Like, some people can do it, but if you're not one of those people, good luck trying to learn to do it. You're going to break your neck. It's not going to happen for you. But it's not true. I lived in Spain for a few years, and there the people speak 3-4 languages. It's just a mindset of, I want to communicate with as many people as possible. I want to learn more about the world, so I'm going to learn this other language. And we can do that here too. We just need to convince our kids and make them realize that when you speak another language, it's like having a superpower. It's like finding a secret door to a hidden world that has been right in front of you the whole time. You didn't even know it existed, and you step through that door And now you have access to all these people and places and movies and music that were invisible to you before, that you couldn't even understand. And that is a magical, powerful proposition for a kid. The more bilingualism we promote in the United States, the less xenophobia we'll have, the more compassion we'll have. I truly believe that when you learn a second language, you realize that the words we use are subjective. And what I try to say is not necessarily what you understand. That realization could fix a lot of tension and a lot of problems that we're having. So I believe strongly that bilingual education could help solve some of the tensions and problems that we have, some of the misunderstandings, literally, that we have in this country that will, unfortunately, I'm afraid, really be thrown into stark relief as we move through this crisis with the coronavirus. But let me end on a positive note, because you all watching this video, all 100 of you, 120 of you watching this video, are champions of knowledge, champions of learning, ambassadors of information. You inhabit the most informative room in the entire school. Well, hopefully at some point we'll be back in that room, in that sanctum where the librarian is the master of the books that you can see and that you can smell, and that these books and this book go on to have a life of their own. Thanks to you, thanks to the Bluebonnet Award, this thing goes off into the world for kids to have experiences where I'm not involved and you're not involved, and it just goes. And it just goes off, and it continues to live on. And that is thanks to you. So once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Mil gracias a todos las bibliotecarias. Gracias.
Hello, my name is Brooklyn Roseborough. I represent Willowbin Elementary in Friendship ISD. Our next guest is a legendary Hollywood creator who has worked with celebrities you may know, such as Tim Burton, Steven Spielberg, and James Cameron, to name a few. We have all heard of these creative geniuses. He grew up observing nature and had a particular passion for prehistoric wildlife. He received a scholarship to attend the Art Center College of Design, and his first big creative jobs were Predator 2 and Edward Scissorhands. While I am personally too young to remember any of these, I am sure many of you guys remember these movies. He also designed makeup for Danny DeVito as the Penguin in Batman Returns, which earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Makeup, which is amazing. He finally got to live his dream by creating dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. Not only did he get to create them and be an on-set puppeteer, but he also got to perform as the raptor, wearing the full-size suit. He always knew that when he grew up, he was going to do dinosaurs. He also worked on Jurassic Park, Lost World, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Rango. This artistic legend enjoys hands-on drawing in his cool studio on his drawing table with his favorite pencils, pencil sharpener, and erasers. And with that, I would like to introduce the drawing sensation and illustrator of El Chupacabras, Mark Crash Mccreary.
Hi everybody, I'm Crash Mccreary, the illustrator of El Chupacabra. I am here in my hacienda in the middle of the desert, and I've just been handed the coveted Bluebonnet Award. Thank you so much. I couldn't be more honored to accept this award. This is not a Bluebonnet Award. This is my son's soccer trophy, but I felt like I needed to be holding something. And I don't live in a desert. I live in Tarzana, California. Anyway, really, thank you so much. This is such an honor. Adam, Rubin, and I are just blown away that we won this award for our book. And, especially when we came into Texas and walked into the room with all the other nominees and just saw the amount of talent, and the last thing we thought would happen is our book get this attention, let alone this award. So thank you again. I'd love to tell you a little bit about how we came about making the book as well. I think I'm on fire. Jesus. All right, so I'm going to take you through the process that I used to come up with the characters for the book, which is very similar to film when I work on a movie. And that was, coming up with Chupacabra's look. And so I just did a bunch of small sketches, trying to be as free and loose with it as possible. And, I wanted him to be cute, but he's still a little monster. So the balance between that was a little tricky. So I'd done a bunch of sketches, and this guy on the right kind of felt like he was starting to get somewhere. So I went off on that design and eventually came up with this guy. And I thought he was pretty cool, and I sent it off to Adam, and he's like, oh yeah, this is terrific, and let's don't put wings on him though. I don't know why I put wings on him, but I did. And so from this point, what I'll do is I like to get into character stuff. So, Adam and I discussed a lot about Chupacabra. He's this little gentleman. He loves churros dipped in chocolate, and butterflies like him. And, he's this cool little guy. Maybe he's wearing a monocle. And so it was really about kind of exploring his character, a little bit of his world, and I'll always start with these really, really rough sketches like this. The next thing I had to design were the goats, which were a lot of fun to do because they're so funny, and I really wanted to make them have so much character and be a little silly. And these are, before I had Chupacabra figured out, I kind of was, how big is he sitting on the nose of a goat? So we were playing with those ideas a lot. And here's the kind of final design of Chupacabra sitting on the nose. And we also had to figure out, how do you suck a goat? Does he unscrew his horn, or does he climb up his nose? So we had him climbing up his nose ultimately. And then we have the goat pancake. And I had the idea that all the goats were kind of standing around staring at it. And then I thought, no, you know what? They need to be up in a tree, because I've seen photographs of goats in a tree. And I just thought that was so hilarious. So we had to put that in. And so I started playing with the goat pancake idea, and we don't want it to be creepy or anything like that. And I think this design here, which was the final design, pretty much kind of nailed it. Next, I had to design Carla and Hector, the father and daughter, who are the main characters other than Chupacabra. And I had a friend who had a daughter who posed for me, and I love to use reference when I draw. And she was a little too old though, so I had to age her down quite a bit, which was fine. But I think she turned out really great. Her father, Hector, on the other hand, this character has a very deep meaning for me, because I modeled him after a friend of mine named Umberto, who was kind of a shaman, kind of the mayor of this little mountain town called Real de Catorce in the middle of Mexico. And sadly, he passed away a couple of years ago. And he was a really, really dear friend of mine. And so I dedicated the book to Umberto. The next character was the flower lady, kind of the love interest for Hector. And again, I had a friend who didn't mind posing for me, and it always helps for me to have reference of people. I can draw animals really well, but people I have a hard time with. So she was really terrific. And then I had to design the town in the desert. What does that look like? And so I had done some sketches of the forest that the Chupacabra might live in. And there aren't really any forests in the desert. They're a different kind of forest. There are goat farms that have big trees, which helped out a lot. And I really wanted to have the farmhouse that they lived in, just outside of the town, because there's a story point where the goats get really, enormous and start to wreak havoc on the city. So I actually used Real de Catorce, the city, as the model for the town. So once I have a cast of characters figured out, it's time to move on to story keyframes. And so these are going to be the panels for every page. Adam Rubin had a script, and so each page has a very specific text to it and story point. So this is where I go in, I start playing with ideas about what that panel might look like. And this one in particular, the one in the upper left corner and the lower one, were pretty much how they came out in the final. And then I'll start adding more characters to a scene, and these are really small drawings. Like here you can see just the size of that's an 11 by 14 piece of paper. So these are very small little sketches, but they really inform a lot as far as composition and design go. And at this stage, we make a lot of changes, which are fine. This last panel of the goat being blown up with the bike pump, originally it was this configuration, which I get it. It's for kids. And now we're moving into the final pencil renderings. I draw everything in pencil first, from these little tiny sketches to these pretty big pieces. This is at least 2.5 feet wide. This is where I can really get into a lot of detail. Some of them are made up of different elements that I know are going to be part of a larger collage, so I'll do each individual element on its own and then paste them all together and then redraw the whole thing, like this piece here. Even, from the very first sketches of the Chupacabra, not a whole lot changed. I like to go off of my first instincts a lot of time. And there's also an opportunity to kind of add a lot of kind of subtext. Like in Carla's room, there's pictures of her and her mom, and little details like this kind of give you a backstory as to, where is her mom? And I think it's kind of a sad conclusion. But, and when we switch over to Hector, behind his head on the wall is a picture of his wife, and on the nightstand are 2 wedding rings. So I'm just trying to add depth to the story that's already there. When I get into these large pencil drawings, I take a lot of reference of myself. I use myself as a model. I use reference photos I've taken. Here's some of the goats. But with Chupacabra, I really didn't have much reference to go off of. So what I'll use sometimes are 3D modeling programs. And so I built his head in this program so that I can see these difficult angles that might be tough to draw or try to figure out just on my own, because its eyes are so big. And it really helps having a model like that, whether it's from behind or even a profile shot. It gives me something to go off of. And I have another program called SketchUp where if I have this is my initial sketch, and this model, it's very simple and crude, but it gives me an idea of perspective and how to place characters and objects, which is really helpful. As well as with these goats, like this upshot is a very strange shot. So that model, that 3D model, really helps me kind of define these characters and then into color. And speaking of color, this is what I move into next. One of my favorite painters of all time is Joaquin Sorolla, who, you look at her white blouse, but look at how the colors that are in there, the oranges and the blues. And he was such an inspiration for me in this book to really kind of play with color and really make it rich and exciting. Even in the goat's fur, it's not just brown. The browns are made up of purples and yellows and oranges and blues. I also wanted to play with the color timing too between panels. So this panel of the Chupacabra has a little bit more muted kind of tones, and then the next page is this explosion of color and vibrance. So that's pretty much it. It's all the time I have. I'd love to keep telling you everything about the book, but I hope you enjoyed the book as much as I enjoyed making it. I just really want to say thank you to the teachers, to the librarians, and particularly to the kids who voted for our book to win this award. That means so much to Adam and I, and we just couldn't be more thrilled and honored. So thank you so much. And we're so upset that we couldn't be in Texas in person. We would have loved to have met everybody. So, and unfortunately at these times it's crazy, but we got to do what we got to do. So thank you again for this. Everyone stay safe. And again, thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Texas librarians, for helping 103,967 children of Texas participate in this year's voting process. It is now my pleasure to introduce the dedicated and hard-working members of the Texas Bluebonnet Award committees. These are the people that have experience with YouTube, WordPress, Twitter, Facebook, and other social media. They create book trailers, develop questions for author interviews, write readers' theaters, collect age-appropriate resources such as maker activities and read-alikes, and they write discussion questions. This year, the members have placed all web resources such as book trailers onto a Google site for easier access. The members of the program committee are Leslie Baker, Julianne Bamford, Jessica Silva, Dina Carranza, Heather Owens, Devin Weaver, Catherine Harrison, Carrie Breshnahan, Andrea Cardone, Jolie Jennings, Brenda Speck, and Angela Jones. The members of the selection committee love reading middle grade fiction and nonfiction. They read with an open mind and without bias. They can read 400 plus books per consideration year. And we discuss using the specific criteria for reviewing various genres and the appeal terms emphasized during our mentoring process. The members of the selection committee are Zula Mabuli, Lori Laguna, Veronica McKay, Lauren Nalipia, Morgan Bricky Jones, Susan Niefler, Terry Harkey, Christy Henson, Jennifer Sprague, Krista Britton, and Rachel Henderson Cook. I would also like to welcome our new members as of March 26, 2020. They are Jan Williams, Margaret Resendez, Melissa Handley, Phyllis Azan, Darby Pilgrim, Allison Blythe, Melissa O'Rear, and Leslie Baker. Thank you, Texas Bluebonnet Award Committees, for a job well done. But if you would like to be a member of the best book club ever, go to txla.org and find us under the reading list tab to be one of the future members of the Texas Bluebonnet Award Committees.
Thank you for joining us today to celebrate kids in reading, authors and illustrators, libraries and librarians. The Bluebonnet tradition continues because of the work of librarians across the state. Please know that you are appreciated. At this time, I'd like to recognize the Executive Board of the Children's Roundtable. Past Chair is Bethany King. Chair-elect is Sarah Pope. The Counselor is Shelley Lane. The Webmaster is Phyllis Anazine. And the Secretary is Emily Cooper-Stotch. The Tassel Executive Board is as follows. The Chair is Rochelle O'Neill. The Past Chair is Nancy Jo Lambert. The Chair-elect is Christy Starr. Counselor Nicole Cruz. And Secretary is Lisa Zinke. Special thanks go to Shirley Robinson, Executive Director of TLA, and Cecilia Barham, President of TLA, for their unending support of the Texas Bluebonnet Award Program. I cannot properly express my gratitude to these two ladies, my luncheon co-chairs. Emily Cooper-Stotch and Kristen Fournier have gone above and beyond to make the luncheon and now the visual celebration a success, the virtual celebration a success. Thanks for working so hard and for putting up with me during this process. I am eternally grateful that I can count you as my friends. Thank you for being with us, and congratulations once more to Adam Rubin and Crash Mccreary. Please stay tuned for a video celebrating the 40 winners of the Texas Bluebonnet Award.